Hello, my name's Danni, and I'm here to talk with Karen and Bec about life with baby loss. And I'm remembering Olivia-Grace.
Hi, welcome to Room to Grieve podcast. We're your hosts, Karen and Bec. Grab yourself a cuppa, find a comfortable spot, and we'll journey through grief together.
And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
New Year, and we're covering all of the subjects that our listeners have kindly wrote into us and asked us to cover. And one of them was on baby loss. So thank you so much for joining us today to cover such an important subject. I've already brought my tissues because I know that I'm going to be...
I know, I didn't bring my tissues.
Yeah. Oh, I love the kitchen roll. That's a bit harsh. That's going to be a bit... I'll just go off my skin.
Leave, can't I?
Yeah. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your story? Sort of how come that you know this shit that is grief, really?
Why am I in this crappy club? Yeah.
Yeah, it's crap.
So Olivia-Grace was my first baby. I was 29 and we had pretty much a textbook pregnancy, other than the usual, first time anxiety and whatnot. It was mostly fine. And I went into slightly preterm labour at 36 weeks on the dot. And everything went from being fine to being very wrong very quickly. Everything now, like when I look back, hindsight, my labour was not normal. And as it, transpires, I had a concealed placental abruption, which was catastrophic for her. Happened during labour, and unfortunately she just didn't get out in time, so she was extremely starved of oxygen, and that results in very severe brain damage or hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy. Got really good at saying that now after the years. Something like nobody has ever heard of HIE, and that's what she is, my little HIE warrior. But that's what that means, basically, severe brain damage. So, we went through labour to immediately she was taken away from me. They did everything. I mean, they were incredible. I'll be forever grateful to the neonate doctors. They did everything that they needed to do in a very quick space of time. They get therapeutic cooling. It's to try and delay any secondary damage caused by the lack of oxygen, because you can't reverse brain damage, and she was taken to our local NICU, and that's where the start of our NICU journey began. I think those first couple days are just I barely remember them. I
was going to say, how does that go in the labor room? Because everything's so intense and kind of I remember my first delivery, it was all just scary and weird and new, and you didn't really know what was going on anyway. So at what point did you sort of know that things were going wrong?
My labour was extremely intense and very quick, considering that it was a first time labour. So that on its own maybe is not a warning sign on its own.
You wouldn't know if you haven't been through it before. You've nothing to compare it against.
No, and like they said, some women just have really quick labours. Maybe that's just me, but looking back collectively, there were signs, and there were, she was in distress. Having a labour that fast, not normal, shouldn't have been the way that it was. And I definitely remember feeling like something wasn't right. You have that kind of intuition, don't you? But again, my first labour, I didn't know what to expect, but I knew that it felt nothing like I had imagined. My contractions weren't I've since given birth and I've done a vaginal delivery again. So I almost have the comparison, and they are just worlds apart. The contractions I had with Olivia-Grace, almost I've got to be careful because this is where I start crying, is when I go back to the labour too much. But they were suffocating. They came all the way up to my throat, and it felt like there was something on my chest, like I couldn't breathe. They were so intense, and they were all across my stomach and round my back, and they didn't progress like a normal contraction would. They were just full on, felt like they were trying to kill me. You know, I know now that is a sign of like what an abruption contraction feels like. And I remember saying in labor, this is too fast. This is too fast. Of course, they were trying to just reassure me it's okay. Like some women, it just happens this way, you know. But it was, I think I knew instinctively, I think I knew something wasn't right. But I mean, nothing could have, you know, prepared me for when she did come out, the things that I saw.
Yeah.
We were, don't like to use the word like lucky. I mean, we were lucky that they got her back. I mean, she was not lucky that she suffered in the way. It's very hard for me to like try and explain it with, you know.
Yeah.
I think a minute more, she would have been stillborn.
Okay.
That, you know, so I was very grateful that they got her back, obviously, but it meant the extent of the damage was just, catastrophic.
Yeah, it's really hard, isn't it? And I mean, I imagine that then you having to tell your family because everybody's anticipating this birth announcement of baby and mum are well and all of this, and that's actually not quite your story, is it? I mean, did you realise at that point how serious things were? Or
so my mum was with me in labour. Olivia-Grace's father, we're not together anymore. He was actually deployed at the time, so that was a very difficult phone call to have with him over the phone.
Yeah.
I am medical. I work in the hospital. I work in the hospital I delivered at. I understand quite a bit. I have worked with obstetric emergencies before, so I knew when they told me what her blood gas was. I knew what that meant. But I think even then, the thought of her not living didn't cross my mind. I remember saying to my partner, look, you know, we will learn to take care of her. We will learn. You know, I knew that she would be severe cerebral palsy because of the brain damage. And again, I've taken care of patients, you know, with severe brain damage before. I know the level of care they require, and I said it's okay. I will learn to take care of her. Who better than I will do it. I will give her the best care. Because even then, the thought of her not living through this just didn't cross my mind.
Do you think having that knowledge that you've got,
a blessing and a curse?
Yeah. Okay.
This is like something I've thought so much about over the years. Having that little bit of knowledge, if I had anticipated more something going wrong in labour, because I know the things that can go wrong in labour, and I'd push for them, get her out, and she had been born 10 minutes earlier, she'd likely still be alive now. She would still be severely impaired, but she'd probably still be alive now. You know, so that little bit of knowledge could have saved her life. But on the flip side, it was very hard, I found, to be her mum in the NICU and to not be a medical professional in the NICU.
Wow.
Okay.
I was obsessed with the monitors. I was obsessed with her blood gases. I was obsessed with clinically, is she improving? How is she doing? What can we do? When are we getting these scans? What does this look like for us?
Danni, I don't think that's just your medical training, because I think a lot of mums are like that in that situation. I think it's your brain goes into like this protective mode of, I
felt like I didn't really bond with her that well at the start, because where you are trying to protect yourself. It took a week till that penny dropped in my head that I'm like, I'm a mother now, you know?
Yeah. That was probably your way of helping her at that time, the best way you could.
I did all I knew I could do. So
I know in the hospital in ICU with Emily at one point, they actually turned the machines around so I couldn't see them.
Yeah.
Because you just get fixated on those numbers, don't you? And
you do.
And once you've got they'd be even worse for you because you know what they all mean. I only had a very brief description of what each thing was. So if you knew what they were, so I can't imagine how difficult that was, knowing what I went through.
I think sometimes I wish I hadn't known, you know, every time I saw... but then it also helped me advocate for her when I did have an understanding. You know, I remember saying one day she was... her obs were way off and they were not normal for what she had been, and I remember saying this and they're going, no, but that's in the normal, and I'm going, no, but it's not normal for her, you know, and actually she was having a seizure,
right,
because, you know, secondary to the brain damage, and she suffered with diabetes insipidus, so her sodium was through the roof, and it... Yeah, I don't know. Would it have been better if I hadn't had any understanding? I mean, none of it would have been better. She was the biggest baby in the NICU and the one that was the most poorly and the one that was not going to be coming home, you know? So...
And at what point did you sort of realise that you wouldn't be taking her home? Because I know you said you were having those conversations about taking care of her. When did that change for you?
So I remember exactly when it was. It was exactly the week before she actually passed away. She had been actually doing well. They'd managed to go from her being on, you know, 100% oxygen, ventilated. They were trying to wean it back. They said she may never breathe for herself, and she did. She may never move. And she did. She started wiggling her little arms and legs, and she was stretching. Although her tone was, you know, a lot of things with babies, you won't see these. You won't see the implications until they sort of get older. How their mobility is, you know, so limited. But she was moving and she was wriggling. So they'd managed to wean her down from being intubated to having BiPAP on. So just the nasal cannula, but with some sort of CPAP pressure. And they had said, okay, look, you know, let's try and get her down to just some basic nasal cannula, you know. And they did. And she went a day being on nasal cannula. At that point, I really thought, okay, we might be coming home. We're going to be coming home with oxygen and suction and therapies and seizure medications, but we might be coming home. Unfortunately, later that day, her gases had started to go off. She wasn't coping with just being on the nasal cannula, so they went back on BiPAP, and she developed this really bad stridor. And at first, they thought it was just because she had such low tone. You know, larynx is very floppy and it semi-occludes. And they got ENT to come round and have a look at her, and the consultant came round and he said, "Nope, give me a scope. I want to have a look in her throat." And I mean, I'm glad he did, so that because we knew for sure then what it was, and otherwise I imagine that she would have passed away unexpectedly on the NICU, where she had been struggling and they didn't know why.
Yes.
But the consultant had a look in her throat and she had bilateral vocal cord palsy. So I'm anaesthetics. So when I saw the screen, I think my face just
knew.
It just fell because I knew what that meant. And that moment I hated that I knew. I hated that I had this medical understanding, because when I could see it in front of me, I knew there's no coming back from that. Without a trachea, she she would not live.
Yeah.
And that's why she had started to struggle. You know, her vocal cords were effectively constantly occluding her airway. And I was not prepared to put her through. It was the most impossible decision that I had to make. Because we could have tried. I could have said, right, no, I want her to go to Great Ormond Street. I want her to have a trachea. I want her to live. But that just wasn't a life. It wouldn't have been a life. That's not what I wanted for her. So we said, yeah, let's go and have, we'll have a sleepover at the hospice together. And that's where we were at.
Yeah. Really, really tough decisions to make. And then it's tough to tell everybody else, isn't it? Because it's not the same, but it's similar, I guess, in that when Bradley was ill, I researched everything. And so then when we were hitting milestones that I had researched and he was starting to present with things that I'd read, I knew what that meant. But to try and explain it to like my husband or, other people in the family that still had hope, I kind of then felt that I wish I didn't know. And I wish that I could have been as blinded as them.
Yeah. Because I think you feel like I felt like I was giving up on her. I felt like, enough. It's just a decision no parent, like, you shouldn't have to watch your baby child go through.
Just making that comment where you say you felt like you was giving up on her, because like Bec, I'd looked into things and my husband said I'd given up on Emily because he said, no, you're being negative. How can you give up on her? And I went, okay. And I had to have different faces for different people throughout the journey, because I didn't want them to lose hope, but all through it I knew.
But I think that's our role as a mother, though, isn't it? I spent every day, if I was not by her bedside, if I was having a coffee in the family room, I was on my phone on Google. I was looking at stem cell therapies. I was looking at neuroplasticity and how can we help her. I wanted to know everything because I wasn't giving up on her.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not.
But
you never gave up on her, ever. But it's in your head. It's part of you will always think that you did.
Because you have to come to that point where you concede in their best interest because it becomes unfair to them.
I think if I didn't for a long, long time, I never questioned my decision to not push the trachea. It was only until I'd say her fourth birthday and fourth death anniversary really shook me up. Like, that was by far the worst one I'd had. I don't know why. Maybe it was because she really would no longer have been a baby. I don't know, but it was a shit show of emotion. I wasn't expecting it. And it was only until then that I started. I think it's almost like I went back into the bargaining phase of, well, what if I tried, and would she still be here? And I should have just pushed for it. I didn't know what she could do. Maybe I just didn't give her enough time. And I started questioning everything and almost like fantasizing about going back and having a do-over and trying it, But up until then, I had been confident in that I had made the right decision for her because of how much I loved her. I just was not. They didn't even know if she would have survived the surgery for having a trachea. I mean, HIE babies, when it's severe, their life is challenging. It's hard,
Yeah.
But
And I can't imagine any parent not having them same thoughts of what ifs and if I'd have done this, if I'd have done that. We must all go through it at different stages about different things. You know, that is something we all share, I think.
Absolutely. Of course we do. A lot of people I've got a lot of followers on my page that I'm very like inclusive to all lost mums. You know, you might have had an 8-week miscarriage and your heart is broken, or you have a stillbirth, or you've lost a grown child. That bond, that pain, the grief of losing your child, losing the rest of their life that you had with them, and them outliving you. That's how it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
You know, I think, all those grief feelings are shared.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah, definitely. And that, the anticipatory grief, I think, when you know it's coming, really, I don't know. It's bizarre because sometimes I sit there and I think I should be thankful that I knew Bradley was going to die, because I could have all those conversations with him and we could make sure that he knew how much he was loved, and we were able to fulfill a massive bucket list for him and all those things. And then sometimes I think, but is that better? I don't know. Like, torture yourself.
You lost your child. There's no better, is there? You lost your child.
There's no easy way to lose your child.
It's not fair. No. It's not,
Yeah, you
don't have
yourself.
to try and find. I think we do this as just society. Like, society does not like to think of anyone being in pain for an extended period of time, and they say look for the things that were the good, the positives. They want you to be. Why do I have to always be grateful? Why can I not be in pain when pain is justified? It's
But we still do it to ourselves, don't we? We still try and find that positive to
silver linings,
just to make it make sense, I think.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it ever makes sense. I don't know. I mean, you're 6 years in for you now? So this is only our second year. So for us, it's still, I don't really know what's coming next.
She would have been 6 next month, February 26th. I think for sure, as the years have gone by and I've gone down this grief journey, I have learned I don't have to sugarcoat anything about it. It really is that shit. When you say I can't imagine how painful it is, it's because it is that painful, Yeah. And I think I've really sort of, over the last couple of years, started to tell myself I don't need to explain this grief to anybody, and I don't need to try and make life better in this moment. If this is what I'm feeling, I can validate that and I can honor it. Because I'd give anything to go back. You grieve. There's so many things that you grieve. It's not just your child, is it? It's
no,
just a million things.
Children starting school at the age she would start school, and like it could be something as seen as a little girl in a brownie uniform that she'd have loved to have gone to brownie.
It gets me.
You have a lifetime of that. And we was talking once, we'd been to like a group a group of couples that had all had different child loss ages. And it's funny how people react differently as well, because they're grieving, because they're in pain. That's the only reason why I think that myself and my husband had a different reaction to a young girl that had lost a baby. My husband has got so much anger in our loss. And he said, yeah, but she's lost a baby. She's only lost a baby. And for me, it was like, you can't say that. Say her grief is different. I agree with that. But she is lost. I said, we had Emily for 16 years. We've got 16 years of memory. I've got to take that as being a positive. On that day, I could take it as a positive. The day after, I might not be able to. But I said, she has lost them 16 years. She hasn't had that. And it took, it was about a week or so, and he went, what he said about that girl with the baby? And I said, I'm thinking, oh God, what's he going to say now? And he went, I agree. And he just burst out crying, and he cannot take other
it all
people's
comes
sorrow.
from pain, doesn't it? It just comes from it comes from pain. But I think that's why we have to be, for us that are in this lost community. I think again, this comes with the longer you're in the journey. You realize that there's no comparison. There's no what happened to you and with your child is the worst pain that you in your life is ever going to experience, in the same way that me losing Olivia-Grace will always be the worst. And to no different when I have a miscarriage, mama, saying I was 8 weeks, but that baby, that life I was fantasizing about,
dreams,
we don't have to compare. It's just
no. And
it's
there's
just
certainly
shit for us all.
There's no easy way of getting through it either. There's, some days, we might have an easier day than others, but it's still there. It is always there. From the second you wake up to the second you go to sleep at night, it is there in a different form, and there's just no escaping it.
No. There are many faces of grief, and I think as the years go on, it just grief, it becomes quieter. Like I like to say, it's like I have my quiet grief, and it's always with me. So people think, they hear me say it's quiet grief, and they think, oh well, it's less. It's not. I didn't say it was less. It's just quieter. I don't. I get out of bed, I shower, I go to work, I take care of my rainbows at home. From the outside, I look good. But it's still there. It's just because my life is growing around it. Some days it just quietens it down a little bit,
Do you find that being in this community, in the grief space, as it were, with people that get it, really helps you? And is that why you do what you do?
Oh,
because I mean, for us, 100%, we find that being with each other and talking to people like yourself, otherwise life just doesn't make sense, because people just don't get it.
Loneliest pain. It's the loneliest, because your child, my baby, like as unique as that bond is, nobody, I could never understand your pain, Karen or Bec. And if I for the first couple of years, I wasn't a part of any groups. I didn't share too much on social media. I certainly didn't do what I'm doing now. I didn't know that there was this whole world of these baby loss accounts and these grief accounts, podcasts, but I feel so much more supported having this community, because I'm very fortunate in the people around me are incredible, and they love Olivia-Grace, and they will never forget. And they are always at the end of a phone call if ever I just want to cry. But life moves forward, and for them, and it moves forward, and it's sometimes nicer to just sit and be with people that truly understand what it's like to wake up in the night in a cold sweat with nightmares. That, for me, the New Year's come, so I can feel it already. It's like this switch has gone off inside me, because I'm counting down to her birthday, and nobody can see it really from the outside, but I can feel it deep in my soul.
Your body can feel it, even if your brain doesn't acknowledge the day.
Absolutely.
We have that conversation all the time. We'll always say, I feel really shit today, everything hurts, I feel really poorly. And then it'll be like, have you realised what the date is? Have you realised what, And it's always like, how much, no matter how much we try to mentally block it, avoid it, subconsciously your body just
you just can't. It's like my PTSD memories, I call them, and it's how they're not stored in the right places, and so they're not. I don't know, a therapist tried to explain it to me once. It's like this jumbled mess in your head. But your body remembers, because it's there, and it's just not, but it's not, our brain struggles to access it in the correct way. For me, it used to be, in the first sort of year after Olivia-Grace passed away, I could not stand Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesday was the day she was born. Thursday was the day she passed away. And on those days, I was just in a bad mood. And there might not have been a real reason. And it took me a while to figure out, like, why. And it was because of that, you know.
Right. Yeah. Same for me. Thursdays, 3 a.m., first of every month. Yeah, it's just horrific. Like, I always wake up at 3 o'clock. You know, Bradley died at 3 o'clock. Like, it's just I don't know. It's just, your body just seems to know these things. It just seems to be in tune with these things. And it's like, even if I'm not conscious of what the date is, all of a sudden I'll think we must be coming up to the 1st of the month. Bradley died on the 1st of June. And it's just like my brain just knows we're another month on.
Yeah.
You know, and it just doesn't stop. I think
it's just the way that grief just lives. It lives in you. I think it's so hard, isn't it, to explain it to non-lost people. You just can't explain it.
Everything's tainted. We've said in the past, haven't we? No matter what you do now is tainted because it's always there lingering. So tell us what you've been doing then, Danni. Because I know you've been helping others. You've got a lot of followers, and
my little page is doing well. I started the page because I wrote a book. You know, I found writing very helpful in my grief journey. I just needed to get it out, get it on paper. It helped me feel close as well to Olivia-Grace. Like, she was, I don't know, I'd talk aloud and then I'd reread my work aloud as though it was going straight to her. And that was a huge work in progress. That took fucking forever to finish. Once I'd done the year's worth of writing, it was then going back and editing and then getting it just rough process. Not sure I'd go through it again.
So what's the book about? Your journey? Or
it's literally our first year with baby loss. It's not monthly, it's not weekly. It's just with every sort of what I felt was this significant thing, or it could have just been a day. I sat down at my laptop and I wrote. So the way I write is it's all to her. It's
right.
I talked to Olivia-Grace, and a couple of people had read it and said how I had really liked my writing style, and they felt as though they could relate to these feelings that maybe they were too scared to share with other people. Like, this was how they felt. Is it, I hate the word, is this normal? Am I going crazy? And they just said how knowing that I also felt that way, it really helped them. So I thought, okay, I'm making this a book. I'm doing it. And I did it.
Brilliant.
And it was really emotional because it's I don't know, it's our story. It's there forever. It's her. I feel so proud of her that she's traveled the world. Literally, she's been to Australia, Canada, the States, all over England, you know, and I just think that's amazing. So
totally. And where can we get your book?
It's on ebook or print, on Amazon, Waterstones, any good bookstore. I think I just really wanted to have. I appreciate all the other sort of grief books, or the, you know, sort of, sometimes you do need sort of coaching, like how to deal with life with grief, because it just, like, I'm sure you felt like the minute you open your eyes the day after they pass away, your world is just not even the same. You just don't even know what world you're living in. Nothing feels safe anymore.
No.
And that can be, I feel like that is so scary that people don't understand how scary that is. And I just really wanted my experience and words to just almost be like just a companion for somebody else who's walking through that first year.
Yeah.
And, you know, I feel like the book ends with some hope and love. And that's how I wanted that book to end. So I hope people can connect with it.
Yeah. If it can make somebody feel less alone and, you know, on their own journey, it's just worth it, isn't it?
Absolutely. Definitely. I'm very proud of it.
So you should be. It's all really difficult. And then when you started your online page, was that off the back of the book, or?
Yeah, I just started the Facebook page to help raise awareness of the book. I wanted a safe space to just share Olivia-Grace a bit more. And it just, I don't know, it's just sort of snowballed a bit. I started crafting, making these little sort of keepsakes, and I was thinking, what would I have wanted? What might have brought me a little bit of comfort? What isn't out there that us like lost mums need and want, or just little gestures? You know, like I said, when people don't know what to do for you, and there's no words to be said, you know, I thought I want to make something that someone can just gift you and just go, I'm thinking about you and I'm thinking about your baby and and that's enough. And I started, crafting, and then I just haven't really stopped.
So, no, that's lovely.
I'm full-time worker, full-time crafter, full-time griever, full-time mum.
But you have, on the same, you have to keep, for me, I have to keep that distracted, because I just think that I would sink into a pit of despair if I didn't keep myself.
I feel very honoured. I feel extremely honoured when people come to me to make things for their baby, because I hope they realise that I genuinely put so much love into what I'm making. And I think about that baby. I wonder how old they'd be now. I wonder what colour hair they had. And just for that moment, and they don't know that I'm thinking about them, but in that moment, that baby is like alive again, and it's honouring them.
Yeah. So everything you're doing is made with love, really, isn't it? And I know that sounds corny, but instead of buying it off some production line in China that you can order off Amazon, yours is made. It's so
it's
special.
From one lost mum. It's from one lost mum to another. Yeah. We are bonded. We are connected. We are all in this community, and hopefully it just good. Carries on growing, and that's her sort of legacy, really, isn't it? It's
that's why we all do things like that. We want everybody to know about our children. We want to talk about them. We want to carry on.
And why wouldn't we?
With us. Yeah,
everybody else talks about their kids, and death might end a life. It certainly doesn't end a bond.
No.
So,
how did you find that your friendships and relationships with other people sort of went afterwards? Like, for me, I know that there's been a huge shift, and I just don't see people in the same way, and I just wonder whether
it does change things. It does. That it cost me my relationship. I think grief was too much. It changes it. I think you never want to think about that in the start, because God forbid you lose more than what you've already lost.
It's gradual.
But I think it just does. People don't understand maybe why we do things like this, or they see it as that you're holding on to the pain and you don't want to move forward. And that's just not true. It doesn't matter how many times I say this. I feel like they're still never going to get it. That's not true. It's the complete opposite. I am moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a healthy way I'm honouring my grief, because grief is always going to be there. And the more you try to not acknowledge it or shut it down, the harder I think life then becomes.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
But people just don't. I just think people don't like the idea of you being in pain forever, and I get it, and I know it's always meant with love, but I just want to say, fuck off, because I am going to be in pain for the rest of my life. I am. I know I am, and I'm finding ways to live alongside that in the most peaceful way I can. It's just hard for them, isn't it? It's hard.
I can imagine
for them to understand.
Yeah, I can imagine sometimes you'd be putting all of us mums that do it, we could put something about our children on Facebook, and you can imagine, oh God, she's going on about a dead kid again. And I could just imagine people saying it as I'm posting things, and I don't care.
No, don't care why. Them being uncomfortable is not your problem.
No.
The only thing you're doing is you're continuing your life with your child.
Yeah,
in
we can't
a
make any
new
more
way.
memories. We've got to use the memories that we've got. We've got
Absolutely.
to keep bringing them out again, because we can't make any more.
But I think there's also that fear of grief is so lonely that for a lot of people, that fear of then isolating more people away from them becomes, really scary, of being even more lonely, because then actually if the people that are around you probably aren't right for you anymore, not only have you lost the person that you've lost, but you've now got to create a whole new life for yourself, and that's really difficult, isn't it?
And I think you feel like you're losing another piece of your baby, your child, because you're all connected, aren't you? And that's another little piece of them that's gone away. But I'm very grateful that when you are in this community, the friendships, the newer friendships that you make and the bonds are, they're just really sacred. And
they are.
Those are your people to get you through when it's really, really hard.
I was talking to a lost mum the other night, and it was last night, and she said she cannot tolerate her other friends anymore, and the majority of her friends are now other lost mums.
Yeah.
Because she's just had enough.
And because they just get
she's been
they
let
just
down.
Get it,
yeah, she has been let down badly. And
I think you can't, when you go through a trauma and a loss this big, it's huge, isn't it? And it changes you to your soul. It changes everything about your life. I think I wrote about this actually in my book, because I remember feeling this way. I wish the people around me would get to know the new Danni. I remember feeling that, I still love to have you in my life, but this is going to require some effort on your part, because you have to get to know the new me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, I agree with that whole getting to know new people, to the new you, because I've definitely changed who I am.
Would you mind telling us about your successful births and your children?
My 2 rainbow boys. It's full on, isn't it, with toddlers? They are hard work. It's just parenting after loss is hard. It's all been hard. I feel like nothing in life really is ever going to feel that easy ever again, and that's okay.
I get that.
I bring it on. We will move forward. Things are allowed to be scary and hard, but we will continue to move forward.
Although it's a positive, yes, you've got 2 boys. It's still so difficult, because I suppose at every anniversary, everything they do, you'll think, what would she have been doing now?
Absolutely.
But they're there, aren't they? You've got them, and
I found I've been looking at primary schools. I found that extremely emotional. I think now, being sort of, like I said, I'm 6 years into this now. I have learned. I don't know what face grief is going to wear every day, or when it's going to show up, or when it's going to be loud, messy, or quiet and beautiful. I just let it all in when it comes, and I deal with it then. It's just, even 6 years on, to me, I still see it as, it's just one breath at a time.
Yeah.
I used to be very afraid of grief. We were so afraid of literally feeling like your heart is being torn out of your chest, don't you? That's how you feel. You can't breathe. But I just try not to be afraid of it anymore.
Yeah.
It's still really hard, and it still hurts. But
of course.
Do you do any prep? I know you can't really prep for the grief, but do you think, like, before, say, like going to a nursery school to have a look round, do you like talk to yourself and think, right, this is going to be hard because I'll be thinking of Olivia-Grace, or do you just go and deal with it as and when you get there?
I used to try to prep, and then I realised That doesn't work with grief for me, because
Right.
I don't know what it's going to. I just do it, and I deal with it. And if I have to have a little cry in the car on the way back, I have a little cry. And I had a cry the other day, and my eldest was like, "Mummy, are you sad?" I said, "I just need a hug, buddy." Yes, I just, felt it in that moment, because I found, just for me, it's, again, like, everybody's so different. But when I was trying to like preempt what it was going to be like, it threw me a huge curveball. It wouldn't be anything like I thought it was going to be. I 1 year thought I really want to get her a birthday cake for her birthday, so I did, and it turns out that was shit, and I hated it, and I wanted to smash it, because I felt like, why have I got this birthday cake with no child here to enjoy it, and I don't want to eat it? Why did I want to do that? So I threw it in the bin.
Yeah. That's,
it's just got to ride the waves. You just don't know.
Yeah.
And for anybody else that's kind of been in your situation, and then they're thinking about, having another baby and doing all of that, what advice can you give to people in those situations?
No advice, because honestly, for me, I struggled.
Just
I mean, it was
acknowledging
COVID.
that, you struggled and it was hard. That could help
it was
somebody.
harder than it was COVID as well, so that definitely didn't help. No, it's just hard, or it's going to be okay for you. I don't know, because I don't know that it's.
Yeah.
I wish that there was something that someone had said to me, or that I could say to somebody else. But it's just a journey, and I think have your people around you, and still just reach out to them when you need.
Yeah. Did you find that your pregnancy and your labour were a lot more scary the second time round? Like, did it increase?
Well, I mean, I was anxious, because I was at risk of having an abortion again. But actually, it was okay, because with the first pregnancy after Olivia-Grace, I had an elective section, so it felt very in control. I was really emotional. I ugly cried when I heard him cry, because I'd never heard my baby cry before. I had a baby for 5 weeks, and I never heard her cry. And then the one after that, I did a VBAC, and I said, let's go for a vaginal birth, and I did it, and I don't. Maybe I should have been more anxious. I don't know. But
then you probably feel guilty for not being anxious. You can't win, can you?
And that's why, I just say to myself, there is no right, wrong. Please don't try and preempt how you're going to feel about something, or beat yourself up if something feels a bit different than you thought it was going to feel.
Yeah.
Because do you know what? I guarantee you, the following year and the following year after that, it's all going to be different anyway. So just ride the waves, one step at a time, holding someone's hand. We're all each other's life jackets in this. So you just got to get through it.
And if you can't find anyone close to you to hold their hand, then there are plenty of people online, and they do help, and and I know they're online, and people say, oh, it's not real life friends, but it really is. And that connection that you build with people in this grief community, whether it's online or in person, is invaluable for all of us.
Oh, it is. There might not be a person, but the relationship is real, and it's they will be your lifeline for sure.
Yeah, and your account on Instagram is at _loss_mum, isn't it? Is it the same on?
Yeah, Facebook's the Lost Mum. Yeah. I just share my writing, share beautiful pictures. I share my rants. I share my ugly grief feelings. I share the things that I've screwed up at, so that they feel better if they've done the same. Struggled with something. It's just about normalizing it for all of us, isn't it? That there is no normal.
Yeah, no, and I think that's just it. And I think we all tried to find the answers, and we all tried to find some solution, and there just isn't any, is there?
There isn't. No.
If anybody comes up with a book that can cure us and get us through the day,
Would it? I don't know. Would an answer make it better?
I'm a control freak. I just need control in all of this. That's
I for the longest time I wanted an answer. They didn't know what had happened with my labour. The way she was born versus my labour did, like, to them it doesn't match up. 1 minute she had a heartbeat, then she doesn't. And for so long I need to know why. I need to know why. I need to know why. And then I found out why. And I wish I'd never wanted to know, because it didn't make it better. I then felt guilty because it was my job to keep her safe, and I failed.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I get that.
Yeah.
Thanks
so much for letting me come and talk so much.
Thank you so much for just being so honest and so raw and so open. I think that's just what's really needed for all of us in grief.
Yeah.
We've said it so many times this morning already. We all just need to be seen. And I think that sharing that raw stuff really helps everybody else feel seen and feel sort of validated. I know it helps me. It makes me feel less alone. It makes me feel less stupid. Because sometimes,
stupid, sure.
but sometimes you sit there and you think, God, am I just the only freak that feels like this? This is weird. I don't get it. Like,
no,
because I'm a
there's
control
lots of other
freak.
freaks out there. We all feel it too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit. That's just a control freak thing in me, because I'm so used to being able to control every aspect of my life, and this is just so unpredictable.
Absolutely,
it gets. Yeah, I just get frustrated with it all. But thankfully, Karen keeps me in check, tells me when to rein myself in and to calm myself down, and that's all good. But that's what I mean by having those sort of companions. And if you don't have one in real life, find one online, because they're just as useful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.